This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Thank you. We've got full confirmation of the recording there. And so I'm just going to start with a couple of housekeeping rules. If you've been on Zoom meetings and virtual webinars and things like that before, then these will be familiar to you. But if you could all please pop yourself on mute and kind of have that as the default, that would be great. That just avoids any background noise. And if you would like to contribute, then do feel free to raise your virtual hand or just put the comment in the chat and we'll pick that up. And we do encourage that you have your video turned on if possible, if you're comfortable doing that, and if you've got kind of the internet bandwidth to do that, because it's nice to see your faces when we're talking to you. But of course, if you'd rather not, that's absolutely fine. So let's just start with some introductions. My name is Claire Knott. I work for a company called Shared Intelligence, and Shared Intelligence have been supporting Nottinghamshire with the delivery of their Childhood Obesity Trailblazer programme, of which promotion of Healthy Start has been one of the areas of focus. I will be leading on the facilitation today, and my colleague from Shared Intelligence, Nellie Jones, let's give a little wave, Nellie, will be helping out with the tech and the behind the scenes stuff to make sure that this will go smoothly, which I'm sure it will. But most importantly, I'd just like to introduce Kate Whitaker and Kathy Holmes from Nottinghamshire County Council. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kate, first?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Kate Whitaker. I'm a Public Health and Commissioning Manager with Nottinghamshire County Council, based in the children's team in public health. And I've had involvement in raising awareness of Healthy Start over the last year or so, really. That's been in my portfolio. So we're really looking forward to giving you an update on the scheme today.
Thank you, Kate. And Kathy?
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Holmes. I'm a Public Health Support Officer of Nottinghamshire County Council. I work with Kate on the Healthy Start scheme and the Trailblazer work, and I've got food in my portfolio, so a generic sort of a context of food.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Okay, so in terms of contextualising this webinar, so as you will hear from the presentation shortly, the Healthy Start scheme is such an important resource that supports parents on low incomes to provide healthy food and vitamins for their children. But the scheme can only support these families if they know that it exists and if they are able to access it. And this is where everyone on the call and those watching the recording can help today. So today is an opportunity for you to develop your understanding of the Healthy Start scheme, what it's all about, who can access it, why it's important, but also an opportunity to help you think through how you can look to promote the scheme and embed promotion of that scheme within your own practice and your own kind of working processes. So in terms of the aims of the session and how today is structured, I'm just going to quickly share a couple of slides. Let me just go right back to the beginning. So the session aims to develop understanding of the Healthy Start scheme and why it is so important, to develop understanding of what is happening in Nottinghamshire specifically, to provide information about changes to the Healthy Start scheme. So there have been some updates, some of you may be aware. The presentation will go through some of those updates. To support you, to encourage expectant parents and families with young children to sign up to the scheme, and to share ideas about how we can increase the uptake of Healthy Start. So session aims 4 and 5 are really going to be picked up in the breakout room discussions later, which won't be recorded. But there will be a write-up of the key points of discussion that will be shared following the webinar with the recording. So those who are accessing just the recording will see the key points of discussion from the breakout rooms as well. And then in terms of the agenda, so once I stop talking and once we do the first poll, I'll pass over to Kate and Kathy, who will provide the national and local context and the Healthy Start update in a presentation. That will last around 30 minutes, and you're encouraged to use the chat and ask any questions during that presentation if you would so wish. We will then have a Q&A session which will last about 15 minutes, and again we encourage you to ask any questions that you have. I'll also encourage you to raise your virtual hand if it's easier to talk it through rather than adding everything into the chat. And then the recording will stop, and then we will be split into breakout. And this will be about having a focused discussion, understanding what your experience is currently of Healthy Start, and thinking through how promotion of the scheme could be embedded within your practice. That will last around 20 minutes, and then we'll have a plenary in the main room where we will, if we've got time, just go over some of the key points that were discussed in each of the breakout rooms. But more importantly, we'll do another poll and we will go through next steps before closing. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen there. So the poll that I keep mentioning, we'll just do that polling exercise at the moment. So if I could just ask you on another device or on the same device, if that works for you, to go to www.menti.com, and I'll pop that in the chat. And you'll be asked to provide a code, and I'll let you know that code. So okay, let me get the thing up. Okay, so the code that you will need to put in is 78942944. So that's 78942944. Okay. Great, I can see a couple of hearts flying through, which is good. I'm getting a sense of how many people are in.
Can you repeat that, please?
The code?
Yep, just 1 second. Yeah.
Sure, it's 7894
Yep.
2944.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll give it just 10 more seconds and then we'll go to the first question. Okay, so we would like to know how confident you feel in your understanding of the Healthy Start scheme at the moment. So at this point in time, how confident are you in understanding what it's all about, who's eligible, what is the offer? Okay, so equal at the moment. Oh. Back to equal, okay. So at the moment, a complete split between fairly confident and not confident at all. Okay, that's really good to know. Okay, I'm going to move over to the next question now. And who is currently involved in promoting the Healthy Start scheme in their practice at the moment? Okay, so quite a lot of people. That's great. Okay, so 15 yeses, 5 no's, and 2 not sures. So the majority of people are involved in promotion at the moment. A small proportion are not, and a couple of people not sure. That's absolutely fine. Okay, that's really helpful to know. So we are now going to go into the presentation, and I'll pass over to Kathy Holmes to begin with. So I'm just going to share my screen once more with the slides. Okay, so Kathy, over to you.
Right, well, thank you very much, everybody. This is really going to be a very whistle-stop tour and a very broad overview of understanding the importance of healthy start when we're looking at obesity, childhood obesity. So can we go on to the next slide, please, Claire? This little quote from Professor Michael Marmot sort of summed it up really. I think it gives a sense of the complexities of childhood obesity and the importance of how we embed that early learning through in early years, so that we can get the best positive outcomes later on in life, and the importance of healthy start that healthy start plays in that process. Okay. Sorry. So tackling obesity is one of the greatest long-term challenges. The challenges at the moment, it's seen as public health enemy #1 at the moment, taken over from smoking. And obesity is very interesting because it actually mirrors deprivation. So it's a good kind of way of looking at both things that mirror each other. What we know is that 1 in 3 children leaving primary school are overweight or living with obesity, which is a shocking target, and it's something that is not getting any better over these last years of all the different public health interventions. That mirror of deprivation, we see is a real measure of that inequality as well. And sorry, Claire, can we move on to the next slide, please? So the national picture of childhood obesity is that we measure this through the National Child Measurement Programme, which is a mandatory programme, and I'm sure that most of you have heard of it, where we measure children at reception year and year 6, and that locally is done by the Healthy Families team. With COVID, the COVID pandemic has really brought in a curved ball. With the NCMP was paused for 2 years, but we did a random sample of 10% sample. What we've seen is a 4.5 percentage point rise in that 2-year period of the COVID pandemic, which is the highest rise since the programme began, which I'm sure that you'll agree is a pretty stark testament to what we know about food insecurity and how people have responded during the pandemic and the crisis that's really gone through families, and the level of support that we need to provide for people to sort of be able to recover and emerge out of this situation. So the next slide, please, Claire, sorry. This slide really does sort of give you a visual picture of that pinch point and where it happened. You can see from these graphs at reception and year 6, just how the data really does give us that a sense of evidence to back up what we're seeing in our practice, what you must be seeing on a day-to-day basis around how families are coping on the front line and in communities. Next slide, please. This slide just gives us a bit of an overview of those key kind of things that we take from the NCMP data. Boys have a higher prevalence. Children living in the most deprived areas are twice as likely to be obese than living in the least deprived areas. I think that widening of the inequalities gap, it's getting more and more, it's getting more stark, so it's widening, and it's more noticeable in reception year. So for early years providers, I think what we're seeing is an ever important opportunity that's presenting itself really to use the levers that we have around us to be able to sort of tackle childhood obesity in this way. This really is a whistle-stop tour. So I'm going to go to the local picture and what's actually happening in Nottinghamshire. At the moment, we haven't got local data because of the pause in the NCMP, but what we have got is the trend from the previous years before the pandemic. We've got higher prevalence in Ashfield, Mansfield, Bassetlaw, with Newark and Sherwood coming a close behind. And we've got a doubling of prevalence from between reception and year 6. So what it means is twice as many children are overweight when they leave primary school. So next slide, please. So what we know about obesity is a really complex mix of environmental, psychosociological and behavioural biological factors. What PHE, as it was, is now OHID, is the organisation that recommends a whole systems approach. We can only tackle obesity by looking at every part of the system and everybody playing a part, which is why Healthy Start is a massive lever to help tackle that childhood obesity. Next slide, please. Just a slide to say what we all know, the COVID pandemic has had a massive impact on food insecurity for those households with children. Healthy Start has gained a national profile throughout the pandemic, so it's really shone a light on some of the complexities around obesity, some of the complexities around families and struggling to be resilient in this current climate. Next slide, please. And the next one after that. So I'm just going to quickly whiz over some of the activities and the things that we've been doing in Nottinghamshire to try to tackle this. The health and wellbeing strategy, this is a little summary of some of the key kind of strategic and strategic things that we've been doing at county level. So the health and wellbeing strategy for the last 4 years has had a food environment focus. For the next health and wellbeing strategy, we've got food as a very central focus, and that includes food insecurity, early years, and lots and lots of different elements to it. We've got a food charter that's coming online that's just been approved, and a food insecurity network, which pre-pandemic we didn't have any of those things that were active and fully engaging the local communities and organisations. So things have moved on considerably, but there's still a lot more to do. Can go to next slide, please. Some of the local drivers and the national drivers that sort of push forward with some of this work, I'm sure that some of this will be very familiar to you. Nationally, we've got the National Food Plan, the Levelling Up Agenda, and obviously Marcus Rashford, who's become a cultural voice for Healthy Start and school meals, free school meals, and I think has really put Healthy Start on the map in terms during the pandemic. Fantastic work he's done. Locally, one of our key drivers is the Best Start strategy, which Healthy Start is embedded in that, and that's just a few of the other things that are key kind of drivers for us locally. The next few slides I wanted to put in to show some of that very active work that's been going on in communities, and I'm sure that some of you will be really familiar with this. This is a slide that shows our food clubs, the family action food clubs that as part of the childhood obesity trailblazer work that's been happening across the county. And targeted mainly in some of those Ashfield, Mansfield, Bassett Law areas. And what we've been able to do, this is an example of how we've been able to integrate and embed Healthy Start promotion and payments through the voucher system in an active community activity club that helps local people to get fresh fruit and veg for a reduced rate, and they can actually actively buy that for low cost with using their Healthy Start vouchers. It's been a slow burn, it's taken a while to get off the ground, but it just shows that with this partnership approach, we can actually embed through early years practice, third sector organisation, a really good and national scheme. We can actually embed a really good support mechanism for local families to help them access fruit and veg, and it's really good for the environment because it's fair share delivery. So the next slide, please, Claire. This shows this is just a little picture of the food charter, which is coming online now, and this is a call to action for organisations, citizens, everybody, or local authorities, to actually play their part in terms of putting good food on the menu, back on the menu for Nottinghamshire. And it's broken down into 3 sections. So what's good for the environment, what's good for communities, and what's good for local business. So an economic slant on that. And that you should see everywhere, hopefully, if we're doing our job right. We're working on the website that sits at the back of this. So it's all a flexible current feature at the moment. And the last slide is, sorry Claire, I'm moving forward here. The last slide is really to summarise the Food Insecurity Network, which has started, I mentioned it started since the COVID pandemic, but this hopefully shows just how something strategic, and actually everybody has a part to play in being able to galvanise some of that activity at local level. And we've also built up food networks in all five out of the 7 of our local authorities, districts, that have got food networks now, so, and food coordinators. So there are things that you as practitioners can link into to get the benefit of that wider community activity for your parents and signpost parents too, and Healthy Start is embedded in all of those things as far as we can, and we're still working at it, we're still pushing it, but it's hopefully that will give you a very quick snapshot of how nationally it's all working, locally what we're doing, and the importance of Healthy Start. And now I'm going to shut up. Pass on to Kate.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kathy. We're going to just do a little bit of tech now, where I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this will work. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Okay, so thanks very much, Kathy. We felt it was really important to put Healthy Start in the context of wider work around childhood obesity. So I think, really good just to share that for starters. And we're now going to move on to look at the Healthy Start scheme itself. So Healthy Start is a national scheme. It's been around for many, many years. And it enables people on low incomes essentially to be able to get free milk, fruit, vegetables and vitamins. There have been some significant changes to the scheme recently, and that was the main reason why we wanted to hold the webinar today to run through that. So the main thing is that from the 1st of April this year, this has now happened, the scheme has become digital. It's now people are issued with cards rather than having the paper vouchers, and we're going to run through some of the detail of that. So I wanted first of all just to show you a little bit of what the uptake of Healthy Start has been like across Nottinghamshire over the last couple of years. So Healthy Start uptake is based on the number of people that are actually signed up and using the scheme as a percentage of those who are eligible for the scheme. And you can see here that we got to our sort of highest point really in sort of October, November 2021, where we reached around 64%. And you can see that the uptake there was very similar to the national and regional uptake as well. Now, you might wonder why there's been such a drop off since. The main reason for that has been because this only shows the paper scheme. So unfortunately, at the moment, we've had people beginning to move off the paper scheme onto the digital scheme. Unfortunately, that data hasn't been shared with us nationally yet. So we have to take this data in its context. This slide here just shows a full year's take up for 2021 across all the different districts. And the main reason I wanted to show this one is because you'll see that we do have differences, excuse me, across districts in terms of the uptake of Healthy Start. So Gedling in 2021 was our highest. Newark and Sherwood was the place where we had our lowest uptake. But I think this slide is also interesting because it shows the estimated loss of income to families in each district. So if everybody was claiming what they could through Healthy Start, then that's the amount really of money that could go into families. Again, you'll see there's differences there. So Rushcliffe, although they've had 56% uptake, The estimated loss to families is only £52,000. That's because there are less people that are eligible for the scheme in Rushcliffe. So let's move on to some of the details of Healthy Start. So this is the main the slide that shows you the kind of main elements of the scheme, really. So if you are eligible, and we're going to look at eligibility in a minute, then you can access free fruit, veg and milk, and you can also access free vitamins. Sometimes people say, you look at the amounts there, the amount doesn't look huge. So you have your £4.25 a week that you can claim from the 10th week of pregnancy. For a child from birth to 1 year old, you can actually claim £8.50. But for children 1 to 4, it's down to £4.25 again. But if you actually think about within this, you may possibly have somebody who's pregnant, who also has a child under 1, and may also have a 3-year-old. Somebody in that situation would actually be able to claim £17 a week towards fruit, veg and milk, which equates to £68 a month, which equates to £884 a year. So I think, you know, when you start to think about it like that, and people are getting free vitamins as well, particularly in these times of high levels of food insecurity and poverty, it makes you realise how important the scheme can be to people. So just to very quickly involve you, and I don't want anybody to feel, you know, worried about this, as it's not a case of who's right or wrong, just to involve you a little bit, really. I just wanted you to pop in the chat which of these items you think you cannot purchase through Healthy Start. So is it A, frozen peas? Is it B, follow-on formula milk? Or is it C, ultra heat treated UHT cow's milk? So if you just pop A, B or C in the chat. Now, the problem I think I'm going to have here is I can't actually see the chat. So I don't know whether somebody such as Claire or Nelly could tell me what's popping up.
Everyone has put B so far.
Yeah,
we've got a B or a C.
Brilliant.
But mostly Bs.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to follow on. So yeah, that's absolutely right. You cannot purchase follow-on formula milk with Healthy Start. So Healthy Start can be used to purchase formula milk, but it is only for stage 1 formula milk, which is suitable from birth. Healthy Start can also be used for UHT milk and any other form of cow's milk. It can't be used for other types of milk. So, for example, plant-based milks you can't buy through Healthy Start. This is something that actually has been raised nationally because obviously, you know, lots of people are using those types of milks, but at the moment that can't be purchased through Healthy Start. With your fruit and veg, you can have it fresh, frozen, dried or tinned. You can also purchase beans and pulses. That was a fairly new addition last year, but you can't have any of those in syrup or juice. You can't have smoothies, that type of thing. So it's really sort of plain fruit and vegetables, either in their own juice or water. So I just wanted to talk about vitamins a little bit. So yes, people that are eligible for Healthy Start are also eligible for free vitamins. So for women, this is whilst they're pregnant until their baby is 1 year old.
Would you mind passing my drink?
And for babies and children, they can have free vitamin drops until they are age 4. And those vitamins are now suitable from birth. Again, that was a change over the last within the last few years, but they are now suitable from birth. And you can see on this slide, we are going to share the slides, by the way, afterwards, which vitamins are in those within each type. Just a note really that babies that are formula fed don't need the vitamins because they're already added to formula milk. I just also wanted to share why vitamins are so important. So you can see here that in terms of vitamin A, there's an estimated 8% of children that don't get enough of that in their diets. And vitamin A is really important for a healthy immune system, for healthy skin, and can also help children's vision in dim light. Vitamin C, as it says there, we've got families in lower income groups who tend to have less vitamin C in their diets. Vitamin D, we're all kind of recommended really now to take vitamin D, especially in the winter months when we get less exposure to sunlight. But there are some groups that are specified there as well who are particularly at risk. And folic acid, actually folic acid, it's most important to take it prior to pregnancy and in those really early weeks. Unfortunately, Healthy Start isn't brilliantly set up for that, because you can't claim Healthy Start until you're 10 weeks pregnant. So, you know, it's not brilliant in terms of the sort of folic acid element, but evidently, you know, it enables us to push that message. And you may have somebody that's already on Healthy Start that then becomes pregnant and then maybe thinking, I can actually take that folic acid from early on. So in terms of where we get vitamins in Nottinghamshire, we have them available in our children's centres across the country, and I know across the county, and I know that there's quite a lot of people here from children's centres today. So there's a link there that you can click on, which takes you to the children's centres. Every district has a children's centre that provides vitamins. And if you qualify for Healthy Start, you can collect those vitamins for free. However, if you don't qualify for Healthy Start, they're also sold cheaply in the children's centres. So they're 80p for women's tablets and £1.60 for children's drops, which is cheaper than you're going to find them in many other shops. We also have a vitamin starter pack scheme in Nottinghamshire. So we offer one free pack, which is 2 months supply of Healthy Start vitamins to all pregnant women at the start of pregnancy. And one free pack to all breastfeeding mums. So these are delivered through our midwives and Healthy Family team practitioners. And with that, we also give out information about Healthy Start and how to sign up to the scheme, and information about where people can get vitamins from. So that is for everybody across the board, regardless of whether you're eligible for Healthy Start or not. Okay, another quick question. We're going to look at eligibility now. So again, I'd like you to look at A, B, C and D and just pop in the chat which you think the answer to this is. So who's eligible for Healthy Start? Is it A, pregnant women and families with children under 4 on certain benefits? Is it B, all pregnant young women under 18, regardless of income and benefits? Is it C, some families with no recourse to public funds, as long as they have at least one British child under 4? Or is it D, all of the above? So if you just quickly pop your A, B, C or D in the chat, and then hopefully Claire will give me an indication of what's coming up.
We've got a lot of Ds, a lot of D responses.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think people seem to, which is really reassuring. I think, you know, you seem to have quite a high level of knowledge here. So you're absolutely right. All of those were eligible for Healthy Start. So evidently for Healthy Start, you must be either pregnant or have a child under 4, and you must have one of the qualifying benefits, which is shown there. All pregnant women under 18 are eligible, whether or not they're on benefits. In terms of no recourse to public funds, again, this has been a fairly recent development that's happened over the last few months, and it followed a legal challenge in Parliament. So people have no recourse to public funds and are on a low income, so that's their family income is less than £408 a month after tax, can apply for Healthy Start as long as they have one British child. That doesn't necessarily mean a child that's born, just born in the UK. They have to have a parent who has at least one parent who has settled status. What I would say is, because that can get quite complicated, there is, if you're helping people to claim, there is an email there, and anybody that's on no recourse to public funds is advised to go through that email. And there's also some complications around some of the benefits. There's more information on the Healthy Start website, but also if you've got any complications around the benefits and people claiming, obviously you can speak to your local Citizens Advice Bureau and get support for people through that. So in terms of how to apply, applications for Healthy Start are now mostly online. And I say mostly, as there are 1 or 2 that are still not. So again, under 18s who are not on any benefits are still having to apply by phone and with a paper application form. So are people that are on pension credit. We do have some grandparents and people that, older people looking after children who qualify for Healthy Start. They cannot apply online yet either. However, the vast majority is online, and the Healthy Start team is working really hard at the moment to get everybody online. So that's the main route for people to go through. People can apply in the language that they choose, and interpreters are available, and I'll share that information with you later. So from the 1st of April, absolutely no vouchers being issued. That has now happened. So all successful applicants for Healthy Start will receive a card by post. That's what the card looks like at the bottom of the slide there. The card will have the first payment on it, and it will have instructions on how to activate and use it. And money will also be automatically added to the card every 4 weeks. So somebody receives a card basically with 4 weeks worth of funding on it. If people still have vouchers, they can be used as long as they are in date. And I would say the same in terms of any of you that are working with vitamins. If people are bringing in vitamin vouchers and they're in date, they can still be used. But you'll find that that gradually starts to move on to the card scheme. So one important thing is that the card does need to be activated. The same as when you receive any card, you have to activate it. And there's a number there that people can ring to do that. So they'll need the card that they've been sent, they'll need their date of birth for that, and they'll need their client ID, which is located at the top of the letter that comes with the card. Just giving a little checklist here, and as I say, we will share these slides. If you're supporting people and you're finding that there's been some issues with them using the card, there's a few things maybe just to check first. One is that they've activated the card. The second is that they've received a PIN number, which should be posted to them and can be checked using that number above. For first time use, people do have to put it into the card reader and enter their PIN. After that, they can use contactless, but after 4 uses of contactless, they will need to use their PIN again. People do need to check they've got enough balance on the card, and they can check that at an ATM, and they'll get instructions for that when the card is sent out, or by calling that number that we've provided there. And just to say, it's not possible to spend over the balance. You can't go overdrawn on a Healthy Start card. You also need to check that the retailer accepts MasterCard payments, and you need to be certain that the items you're purchasing are eligible Healthy Start items. Now, that is something that they're going to spot check nationally. And if people are found to be fraudulent and buying other things with their card, then they can be removed from the scheme. The onus is very much on the person buying the items, but it will be spot checked. People can't withdraw cash with the card, and it can't be used for online shopping. Some of these things again have been raised nationally, saying that would make it much easier for people, but currently it can't be used in those ways. So where can the card be used? It can be used anywhere that displays the MasterCard symbol. So that could be any places really. People used to have to sign up for Healthy Start as retailers. They now don't. As long as they provide the MasterCard, take MasterCard, then they can take the card. There have been apparently 1 or 2 difficulties with some shops that aren't actually classed as food retailers. So for example, B&M, people can't use the Healthy Start card in there because it's classed as a home store, not a food store. Now, again, these are all things that are being raised nationally because lots of the Healthy Start items are available in places such as B&M. So in terms of collecting vitamins, as we said earlier, these can be collected from children's centres in Nottinghamshire. And people just need to show the card for that. Vitamins remain absolutely free to Healthy Start eligible people. So the card is evidence of eligibility. It's not being used for payment for the vitamins, and no money comes off it. Just for those of you that are accepting handing out vitamins and looking at the card, just be careful about not taking any card details. That's really quite important. And the reason for it is that obviously the card's got funds added to it. So we don't want any sort of risk of any security issues there. So absolutely don't take the card details. We are recording vitamin collection in the usual way. And that's being fed back through Pamela Craggs, who then feeds back to me. It's unlikely that people will overclaim vitamins and use the scheme fraudulently. Again, the onus is on them around that, not on you. However, if you have somebody that's coming in very regularly and you think, hang on a minute, are they really entitled to all these vitamins? I would discuss that with your manager and have a bit of a think about that. But evidently, eligible families can collect vitamins, for themselves, for a child under 4. They may have several children, so they could be collecting quite a lot of vitamins. Is really important because if somebody is lost or stolen, then any transactions that go through on it will go through on their accounts until they do so. So they could be losing funds there for Healthy Start. So if somebody's lost or said, they think the card might have been stolen, they must ring that number straight away and report it missing. I think fair to say there have been some difficulties with the Healthy Start rollout. And some of you may well have heard about this. So some people have been wrongly rejected. there was a bit of a glitch apparently on the system to start with. So people were moving across from the paper scheme saying, I'm sure I'm still eligible, sending in their application. And for some people on universal credit, it was being rejected. The national team have recognised that and say that has been fixed. And so they're strongly advising people, if they've been rejected, to try again if they think they're still eligible, and that payments will be made in those circumstances. There's also been some lengthy waiting times on the Healthy Start helpline, and they have put extra staff on that and have recognised that. And then another issue that's been raised is that you do have to separate out your Healthy Start items at the checkout. So you go to the checkout with your shopping, you have to separate out what you're paying for with your Healthy Start card, and then pay for your other shopping with in your usual way. And it has been raised that that's, there's a risk of embarrassment and stigma around that. So I think again the national team are looking to address that. But I think it's just really important that despite the difficulties, we still really encourage people to access the scheme, because I think these things are going to be gradually ironed out. And in the longer run, I think it will be much easier for people than it currently is with the paper vouchers. So just wanted to make sure that you've got all the information that you need in terms of signposting people. So in terms of anybody that's on the card scheme, there's a number there where they can ring for any queries. And then there's a more general inquiries number below it. I think the Facebook and the Twitter accounts are probably really important. That's where a lot of the debate is currently going on about people using the scheme, and it's where the Healthy Start team are answering those questions as well. So I think, encouraging people to join those if they're having difficulties. In terms of translation support, we mentioned it earlier. There's a phone number there, and people can select option 3, and then they will get support with an interpreter. And there's also an email address. And again, we're being strongly encouraged for people that are struggling to get through on the phone or worried about the amount that is costing them, to actually just email through, and the Healthy Start team should get back to them. In terms of promotional resources, obviously something that we really want to encourage partners to promote Healthy Start as much as possible in your settings and organisations. We believe there's going to be a national strategy to increase uptake, and that's coming in the next few months. There's a whole set of resources, and I've provided a link here, which Healthy Start have produced, and these include animations that you can share on websites, social media images, and leaflets that can be printed off as well. So there's a main leaflet that can be printed directly from the site. It's called a DL leaflet if you go on there. But also in Notts County Council, we have our Childhood Obesity Trailblazer project site on Notts Help Yourself, and we will be uploading these resources on there. So we'll make sure after this webinar that you're very clear about where all of that is. And Kathy and I are really, really keen to promote. If you need help with things like printed copies, for example, we can help support with that. And finally, just wanted to give a little plug for, if any of you are interested in hearing more about Healthy Start and just want to be kept up to date nationally, there is a national Healthy Start email forum, which is facilitated by Sustain Food Foundation. And I find that really useful. You can email to the address that we've provided here. And once you've done that, you can send a message to everybody in the group. So all sorts comes up on that in terms of vitamins, in terms of some of the problems around the scheme, in terms of ways that people just asking for advice and support on what people have done in other areas. So I find that really useful. Okay, so I think we've now reached the Q&A part of the session. So I'm going to stop sharing, Claire.
Great, thank you, Kate. Right, so thank you both Kate and Kathy for all of there'll be kind of a freely document that will be shared following the webinar, so your questions can be picked up in that. We've had one question come through on the chat whilst you've been presenting, so we'll go to that one first. But if anyone has any questions, please do raise your virtual hand and we can come to you and you can speak or add your question to the chat. So the first question then from Sutton Centre under 5s. If children are eligible for two-year-old funding, are they eligible for Healthy Start vouchers?
Yeah, so the answer to that is not automatically. But what I think you'll find is that many of the families that are eligible for the 2-year funding are also eligible for Healthy Start because of the similar sort of qualifying information. So certainly what we've done before is when people have been written to say that they may be eligible for the 2-year funding, we've also included in there, in that letter, and you may also find that you're eligible for Healthy Start. So what I would say was that could be a really good target group in terms of thinking about who may be eligible and where you could really push that message.
Great, thank you, Kate. Another message, is Healthy Start linked to the Venner service?
So again, now Venner, for people that don't know, we did some work on this in the Trailblazer, and they were providing food boxes with menus and recipes to families. It's a plant-based recipe. We worked with Venner and again made them very much aware of Healthy Start. It's not necessarily linked. I think the main thing to say is Venner were actually providing their own vitamins. One of the things we talked to them about was, we'd really like you to push the message about Healthy Start vitamins, and we'd really like you to push as a kind of continuation of the Venner work really and sustaining it. We really wanted them to push that message again about Healthy Start. So it's kind of linked in that, you know, we know about each other, but they're not formally linked to the scheme.
Great, thank you, Kate. A question about children who are intolerant to milk. What can happen there?
Yeah. And again, really good question. So like I said, cow's milk is the only milk that you can purchase, obviously you get, through Healthy Start, and it has, to say, been raised a lot nationally. For children that are intolerant, so unfortunately you can't use your Healthy Start allowance to purchase that. However, my understanding is that for children with allergies, I think there are some prescriptions that they can get, various things that can be, you know, where those children can receive support. So I think it's something really for families to talk to their health professional around that. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't use it for Healthy Start. That may change. I think it may be one of the things that may change with the scheme in time.
Great, thank you, Kate. How are settings able to supply the vitamins to parents who are eligible?
So again, I think that's something that we could really think about. So say our current offer is that children's centres have the Healthy Start vitamins available. Healthy Start vitamins is quite complex because you have to claim back the funding for the vitamins nationally. There's some quite complex processes around that, and what we've sort of found in the past is that with ordering vitamins, it's very difficult to manage the stock, and Pamela and I sort of work on this a lot at the moment in children's centres to make sure that we've had in the past a lot of wastage of vitamins, so it's quite difficult getting the demand right and matching that to the supply. We've had vitamins sitting on shelves not given out. We can only give them out to Healthy Start eligible people. As I say, we also sell them in children's centres, but again, there's some quite complex arrangements around who can and can't do that. So what I would say is looking at settings and different places to provide vitamins is something that I'm really interested in thinking about. And I think if there are particularly parts of the county where we feel we perhaps haven't got that children's centre coverage so much, or for whatever reasons we feel that people would be more likely to pick them up in a different setting, I think it's certainly something we can think about. And I think we need to get our heads together a bit more on that. We're going to do some work this year on getting some feedback from parents as well around vitamins, where they currently get them from, what they've done after their starter packs. Have they then gone on and bought vitamins elsewhere, or have they just stopped taking vitamins? We're going to try and get some of that sort of feel from parents, and then build that into a bit of a work plan around that as well.
Okay, and another one, can you use the card to pay for food club schemes?
Yes, so technically yes, you can. And again, there are across the country, there have been some different examples of where places like food pantries have done this. Family Action, who are involved in the food club delivery and initially set the food clubs up, they registered as a Healthy Start retailer even before this change on the 1st of April. They did that. So they would be able to provide, as long as they accept MasterCard, which we do, I know, for the food clubs. I think sometimes there have been some connectivity issues or some difficulties with card payments for whatever reason. But technically, as long as the card can be received in the same way as a debit card would be, then there is no reason why. I think what some places have done is they've enabled sort of part payment through Healthy Start. It depends kind of what's in your food club items and all that sort of stuff, because obviously Healthy Start is quite restricted to certain items. But I know there's been sort of discussions around, you know, if the vast majority of your box is actually Healthy Start items, then can you just pay that, you know, with your Healthy Start card? So again, yes, we need to look at that in practice in terms of how we're going to manage that in Notts, but I think that's quite high on mine and Kathy's list in terms of embedding that in the food clubs.
Great, thank you, Kate. So we haven't got any more contributions via the chat. Is there anyone else who maybe wants to raise their hand and ask a question? Any other queries about who is eligible, how to access the new digital card, what's included in the Healthy Start offer?
Could I just ask something, Claire, as well? I just wondered if people are seeing the cards, hearing people talking about the cards locally now, and also whether you've heard of any issues.
Okay. I can see shakes of heads, but also a couple of nods. Does anybody want to come in on that point? Colleen Smith, I can see you're nodding. Do you want to come in?
Sorry, I was trying to type it into the chat quickly. So I was actually in a supermarket the other day, not going to name the brand or anything, but and someone was using a Healthy Start voucher in front of me. And I felt quite embarrassed for that person, because the person said, oh, there's 3p left, you need that, you know, it's really important. And actually that would be that person's choice. So I think when we're talking to providers, superstores, you know, to say, well, actually you wouldn't say to somebody, oh, what you got left on your MasterCard. No. It's their choice whether they then scrap that card or they wait for it to be topped up. So
yeah, no, that's interesting. Thanks, Colleen. Yeah, and I say that, you know, what the main aim really was to try and move away from that sort of stigma of the scheme, of people fumbling around with vouchers and trying to get those out. And, you know, and I think that's why it's been raised quite strongly nationally that, you know, why are people having to separate out their shopping? Why can they not just, you know, say the onus is on the person that's buying it? The trust is with the person that's buying those items, really. So if they know that they've got, you know, a certain amount of items costing a certain amount in that shopping, why can they not just hand over the Healthy Start card for that bit and then use the other? But anyway, it's definitely being raised. But no, that's it shouldn't be happening, should it? And I think that's the sort of thing that we can feed back at this national forum. Lots of that. There's some very strong minded people on that national forum who speak very strongly about the fact that, you know, this scheme needs to be non-stigmatized. The other bit, you know, that's really difficult is people still have to claim, they still have to know that they're eligible, and they still have to claim. And there's lots of noise nationally as well about, you know, why are people just not automatically told that they're on the scheme and given that, you know, allocation. So I think there's a lot of work, to be honest, to be done still around that. Yeah, it's useful to hear that feedback. It's also useful to hear that not many people are seeing the cards yet necessarily, and I think, again, you know, that shows that perhaps locally we really do need to do a lot more of this push, because it may be that people are still on the vouchers, maybe haven't realised that they have to reapply, or, you know, so we really do need to take any opportunity that we can to promote it, don't we?
And I saw Sarah Coleman, you popped your thumbs up. I don't know whether you wanted to just come in on that.
Yeah, sorry, just to say that we'd seen a couple of the cards come through Rushcliffe. So, you know, there is some evidence. It's still very early days and low figures. I mean, the vouchers, the paper vouchers we used to see quite regularly, but we are just seeing 1 or 2 cards at the moment. So we're hoping that that's just going to increase over time.
Yes, let's hope so. I'm sure it will. As I say, there's been a lot of glitches nationally. But I'm hoping, you know, that's going to settle down. Some local authorities have actually not really pushed, because of all the problems there've been nationally, they haven't really been pushing the promotion. I suppose we've just been doing a bit of a sort of gently, and we really wanted to do this today to make sure, we're doing another one tomorrow, these webinars, just to really make sure that people, you know, knew about it. And I say we'll share all these resources afterwards, because I think, yeah, we can move more into beginning to push it now. I think over the last couple of months, everybody's been a little bit more, it doesn't seem to be working very well, and there's people who are waiting for half an hour on the helpline, and you know, for people that haven't got that in their phone plan, they were paying for that. Some people paying a lot of money on the phone just to get through. So, you know, there have been a lot of concerns, but hopefully it's settling down.
Thank you. I've just seen, Caroline, your hand go up. I'm going to go to the comment in the chat first, and then I'll come to you, Caroline. So another question, are these linked to the vouchers that we have to allocate termly?
These are the ones, aren't they, that come through supporting families? No, they're not. So that's within a setting, I think, isn't it? Yeah. No, they're not linked to that. But again, it's really important that all these things work together, isn't it? Because, you know, we are essentially identifying families that need support around food and around the cost of food, and that's only going to go up and up, isn't it, now? So yeah, they're not officially linked, but again, any opportunity that, you know, when we're working with those families or sharing information or giving out vouchers for other things, a bit like we said with the 2-year-old entitlement as well, those are all, I think, really good opportunities to push Healthy Start as well.
Thank you, Kate. And Caroline?
Yeah, just basically in regards to the cards, we've not seen any work in the Children's Centre in Ashfield, which you know, you would expect as one of the higher deprivation sort of places that we would be seeing those. Realistically, we actually sell more vitamins than we ever get vouchers.
Yeah, I know. It's a huge problem, isn't it, Carolyn?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
No. So what I find this really difficult to understand, because like I say, in Ashfield now, it's the same as everywhere in the county, every pregnant woman gets a bottle of Healthy Start vitamins at the start of pregnancy. And with that, they're given a leaflet saying these are where you can pick your vitamins up, you know, either free or low cost. And obviously the Ashfield centres are on there. Same again, the Healthy Family teams do that after the baby's born and give another bottle out and another push. And yet you're absolutely right. We see, and we're not on our own. I know across the country, vitamin uptake is really, really low. It's another of my bugbears, to be honest, because I actually think we know the Healthy Start team nationally know who is eligible for Healthy Start. So those vitamins could be somehow got out to those people, but we don't, unfortunately, have that information. So we can't target those people locally. But yeah, we know that uptake is really low. I think all we can do is just keep pushing the message. And I know you do in children's centres. For whatever reason, we're still not getting people coming through and getting their free vitamins. So yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers. We just keep trying. But thanks for raising that.
Thank you, Kate. So we've got a couple more minutes left. Are there any other questions anyone would like to ask Kate and Kathy? Any final kind of comments, Kate?
No, I don't think so. Just acknowledging, you know, what people have said. And I see Maxine as well has said, you know, that she passed out information to parents, but people haven't responded. I'm assuming that's around the cards and the card scheme. And I think, yeah, again, it's difficult. It's a scheme that, when you get on it, is brilliant, but it's actually fraught with quite a lot of problems. And you know, I think some of those things are a little bit out of our hands sometimes, but all we can do is just, you know, make sure we've got it embedded as much as we possibly can, and just really encourage people, you know, to access. I'm hoping, again, once people get used to hearing about the cards and the fact that they realise that you know, you have a month's payment on it when it first comes out, I think you can build it up to about 4 months worth before it then has to be used. But I mean, that can actually be used for quite a significant shock. And I think, you know, like we were saying earlier, if you think about somebody with several young children who may also be pregnant, you know, this could be quite a significant amount of money. So really, really important to get people on as much as we can. But, you know, we can only do what we can do, can't we? We can really encourage, we can share the information, we can talk to people about it. And then, you know, we have to leave it to people to decide, don't we?
Great. Thank you, Kate. And thank you to everybody who has asked questions in this Q&A. Really, really helpful to hear kind of the thoughts in your own mind and where you are querying the Healthy Start scheme and some experiences that you're having. So great. Thank you so much. That. If you think of any other questions that you would like to ask, please do add it to the chat. And at the end of this session, actually, what we'll do now, whilst it's being recorded, is pop mine and Nellie's email addresses in the chat. You can email us and we can pass it on to Kate and Kathy, but their email addresses I'm sure will be made available with the other resources as well anyway. But just for time, I'll pop that in there. So before we end the recording, then I'd just like to add that this recording and the presentation slides and the write-up of today's discussion with the FAQs will all be made available following the webinar. So Nellie, please stop the recording now.